Tensions are rising again between New Delhi and Washington. U.S. President Donald Trump's top economic advisor has issued a sharp warning to India over its trade ties with Russia. At the heart of the dispute, oil, tariffs, and a complicated negotiation table. The United States has more than doubled tariffs on Indian goods, raising duties up to 50%, the highest for any country except Brazil. The move comes amid growing frustration in Washington over India's continued purchase of Russian crude oil. U.S. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett says, unless India pulls back on that trade, Trump won't soften his stance on tariffs. Hassett called trade talks with India complicated and accused New Delhi of being rigid about opening its markets to American products. He also linked the negotiations to global geopolitics, claiming pressure on India is tied to U.S. effort to isolate Russia diplomatically and economically. Part of this is tied to the pressure we're putting on Russia, and then there's India's intransigence about opening their markets.
I think that it is a complicated relationship, that it's integrated some with the problems that we're trying to put extra pressure on Russia so that we can get a peace deal to save millions of lives, and the Indian intransigence about opening their markets to our products. And so I think that when you're looking at trade negotiations, one thing I think we've all learned is that you need to keep your eyes on the horizon and recognize that there are going to be ebbs and flows in things before we reach the final position. And if the Indians don't budge, I don't think President Trump will either.
He compared the ongoing talks to a marathon, saying both countries need patience to reach common ground, but warned that progress has been slow and uneven. The message was reinforced by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who said India has been uncooperative and hinted that a deal that once seemed close is now uncertain. I thought we'd have a deal in May or June, that India could be one of the earliest deals, but they kind of tapped us along. New Delhi had been a bit uncooperative during negotiations. This is a very complicated relationship. I do think India is the world's largest democracy, and the U.S. is the world's largest economy. I think at the end of the day, we will come together, said Bessent. India, meanwhile, remains firm. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has vowed not to compromise the interests of Indian farmers. With $48.2 billion worth of exports now under tariff pressure, the government says the impact may deepen in the months ahead, hurting jobs and growth. For now, the trade marathon continues, with no finish line in sight. But both nations, with their economic and democratic weight, may eventually find common ground.